Iburu, Iboya, Ibuche, everybody in Cyberland. Hey, it's your favorite Babaláwo, at least I hope so. Oddi, Leke coming at you with another great video. How are you guys doing today? Hopefully, everybody's doing okay on this wonderful Sunday. Don't know about you guys, but it is a little chilly outside. But hopefully, you guys find this video and you guys are coming well to this video. And hey, as always, hey, always great, always happy to see you all, and always a pleasure. Oh, definitely good to see you on here. Mino 88 coming down from Louisiana, I'm thinking, or LA, Los Angeles, not sure. But hey, we got a special topic today, right? Today is is Sunday, spiritual Sunday, right? And this is our way of connecting, right? Our way of coming together and making sure that we hear some of the good words that are out there. The most beautiful part about this whole process right now is that at the end of it, we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk Ifa. We're gonna just learn. We're gonna just get after it, right? And one of the main reasons why I'm doing this is because I think it's important for us to just focus, right? Focus on what's going on in the world, right? I want you guys to all kind of just, this wonderful Sunday as we start our days, or we've been up for a few hours now. We already had a cup of coffee. We're already relaxed, right? But here's something that I think is very interesting. And then, little boy, Abucheche, Paul, good to see you from. Chrissy from cold Michigan. Yeah, Chrissy, yeah, we actually had about 10 inches fall where I'm at right now. So it's definitely cold. It feels like 4 degrees outside. But definitely that lake effect, it's probably something different. So something that I want us to all to just kind of rally up and kind of just understand is that, hey, think about the challenges that are going on today in the world, today, right? We have to ask ourselves this one fundamental question that I think it's important for us to kind of get after. One is, you know, are we leading with our destiny or are we abandoning it? Right. And I think that right there is something that I want you to focus on. Are we leading our destiny or are we abandoning it? Okay. And this is the reason why I say this, right? This is where we need to speak life into community, right? This is where we need to bring spiritual and physical together, right? Right now, today in the world, what are we dealing with, right? We have conflicts, we got wars, we got financial instability. To a certain point, we have more people that are diagnosed with mental health concerns, probably in any time recorded in history, right? We have some collapses in social governments, right? Even within the United States of America, we're seeing where these major cities are just kind of falling apart for one way, shape, or form. We got people who are confused with their own identity, right? And are choosing to be something different than something that they were built into and should be aligning themselves to become better. We got people suffering with anxiety, we got division, we got corruption, we got fear. We got a lot of people that are working towards or working with weak leadership. People are drifting. People numbering themselves instead of healing, right? They find themselves numbing themselves through a lot of different avenues, and that's a sad place to be, right? People, outsourcing accountability instead of improving discipline, right? How many people are you see that are just following the wave, and it's easier to follow the wave and to fall into some form of I guess ideology instead of just improving themselves, right? And this is not random, right? This is not a prophecy. This is your Oddi's abandonment on the global scale, right? Humanity is very disconnected today more than ever, right? From self, from ancestors, from purpose, from discipline to character, spiritual truth, personal responsibility, right? And this is something that Ifa has told us. Ifa told us long ago, a bad head cannot get crowned. So here we are in today's challenges. We got to stop living in default and start living by design. Right? We got to stop waiting for miracles and become the miracle. We got to stop letting the world define you and let your Ori define the world. Right? Think about that. Think of how exciting that would be for you right now today. As you sit there, you say, I'm going to take the initiative, the discipline, and I'm going to get after what I need to get after. And that's what Ifa is all about. That's what the Lokumi, that's what our faith, the Yoruba cosmology teaches us. Taking control of ourselves and pushing ourselves forward. Right. And this is something that we don't do enough, but yet this is something that we complain about the most. Right. A lot of people want to complain about gas prices. A lot of people want to complain about the prices of things. A lot of people want to complain. But here's the big kicker, right? And this is not necessarily a dig on any type of religions or anything like that. So please don't take it that way. However, because this particular, sector of the world decided to kind of jump on board this, we'll say some of the world religions, we'll use them as an example to kind of get to my point here. But I want to go deeper. I want to go deeper than I did the last two sessions. Right? Today, I want to enter a place, right? To get my point across. I want to enter a place where God placed divinities inside human beings. Right? I want you guys to focus on that now, right? Each and every one of you, right? God placed a divinity inside of you. Olodumare has said, I'm going to make you divine. Each human is divine in their own way, right? We're not divine, not by a book, not by a statue, not by a temple, but inside the Ori Inu, your inner consciousness, what some would refer as your third eye. How beautiful is that? Think about that. That means you have the power to elevate yourself higher than anyone is going to give you credit for. Higher because that was God's design. Think about that for a minute. That means you have the ability and the purpose to be the best version of you based on how you want to align yourself. And that's a beautiful thing. There's an old saying in Yoruba where it says Ori laba bo. Ori laba bo. One must honor, right? Ka tubo orisha. One must honor the Ori before honoring any Orisha. Ori lababo, tatubo Orisha. Right? So here's what I'm trying to say by this. This is the time, right? This is the law of the universe. This is your law. This is your truth, right? This is the truth older than religion itself. This is the truth that is forgotten by the world. That's the reason why I want to kind of make sure you guys understand this, because you have the power, right? You have the power. Not no human, not no priest, not no Orisha, you, right? And we're going to dig into that. We're going to dig deep. This is the reason why I'm excited. I'm excited about this particular, Sunday spiritual session more than anything, because we're going to talk a little bit about the Ori and why that's important. And we're going to compare this, right? We're going to compare it for the sake of comparison to the Christianity, not necessarily a bash, but a deeper understanding, right? And this is because at the end of it, I had a question that was posed to me earlier this week about Christianity. It was a question that was posed to me about, hey, what do we believe in versus what they believe in? And I'm always an optimist, right? I always like to look at similarities and tell everybody, hey, together we grow, right? But then there's going to be those moments where we have to just be realistic and understand the differences as well, especially as you begin to align yourself and you begin to say, I have more faith and truth and understanding in my belief system, in my faith. And this is why I want to give you the why. That's the key, right? So let's see. Let me look at the chat. What we got here before I start digging real deep. It says, no, it stands for something else. Oh, I'm from Tennessee. Ah, okay. Hey, Tennessee. Ooh. I got my godson is from Tennessee as well, from Nashville area. So following my ancestors. At times I go time. At times I'm to be still. There's no more about my destiny. So I do so. I'm trusting their lead and the Orishas. No, no, beautiful. You gotta trust. You gotta know where your heart is taking you, right? Because the Orishas don't abandon us. However, the Orishas, right, Meno, to your point, are guided by your your Ori Inu, right? And this is something that's very interesting, and I'm gonna dig into this that a lot of people don't realize. So, hey, Alafia, Michelle King. Hey, good to see you on here. I mean, I'm absolutely supposed to be on this live. Thank you. No, Buruboya Buchache. I'm glad. I'm glad. So here it is. Here it is. What is Ori? What is Ori? In a shortened version, because the intent is not to make this a lesson on Ori. Maybe that's something I do in the future for sure. But the intent here is that the most misunderstood power in human existence, right, is your Ori. Purity is not your mind. It's not your soul. It's not your spirit. Okay? That's not what Ori is. Right? Let me explain to you why I say this. Because your Ori is something deeper than that. Right? Ori is your divine blueprint. Right? The contract with destiny. Your connection to Olodumare. Your personal divinity, deity, right? Chosen before your birth. The judge, the path, the witness, and the reward. Ori is the only force that walks with you in the womb, in life, in death, and in reincarnation. Ori is the first Orisha, right? Because no other Orisha can override it. Why? Because it is Olodumare, God's intent to ensure that you are empowered and you are in control to ensure that you meet the master plan, the divine blueprint. So, here's something that I need you all to understand. Many people will go to a priest or a priestess in a Lokumi cosmology of things, and people will get advice. Maybe it's just a consultation, or maybe it is an ita, right? Maybe you received your awofaka or your ikofa, your hand of ifa, right? And because of that, you were given some good advice. And a lot of times people always tell me in my late godfather, Ibaba en Teorun, Miguel Alvarez, Barrera, Oshetura. He used to tell us, you gotta give it to them. You gotta tell them all. You can't cut it all out. You have to make sure that they understand the ugly because the world is ugly, right? And a lot of times you go to a priest or a priestess and they give you the, hey, be careful with this, be careful with that, don't do this. There's something behind you, a tragedy, an envy, or something, right? You all sitting there, you're like, damn, did I just get a consultation so I can just get all the ugly and feel bad? And that's not the case. That's not the case. But there's some truth to that matter, because many people who know me, I always like to tell people, hey, I'm gonna give you the bad, but I'm gonna give you the good, and I'm gonna give you the solution, right? And the solution is the key. Ifa's always gonna have a solution, right? And this is the why. This is the why you're always gonna have a solution. It's because of your ori. So there's an old proverb, right, or an oriki, a prayer in Yoruba that talks about that. It is ori that carries a person, not the orisha, right? And everyone wants blessings. but not everyone wants responsibility. But Ori demands both. Okay, so let me give you an example. You come to me, do my consultation, I give you advice, or you come to me and let's say you're going to receive your hand of Ifa. On day 3, you receive your Ita, and I give you information. And I say, hey, I need you to start doing this. I need you to stop doing this. I need you to be careful with this. And with that builds your own personal accountability, right? To into personal alignment. And with that information and with the growth within your destiny, you become reinforced. Maybe you receive a local, maybe you receive a spiritual investigative misa. Maybe at this point now you're growing and you're maneuvering yourself and you're reinforcing, you're adding all that spiritual armor on in order to reinforce that ori, right? Maybe you get crowned and now you got the helmet on, right? Because now you got that crown, right? So, so that is that personal responsibility, right? You want the blessings, right? But you don't want the responsibility. And that's something that where we have to begin to maneuver this a little bit. We can do all the brujeria in the world, right? You want to hire me, you say, hey, I want to get out of a legal situation. Hey, I want to get out of a personal matter. Hey, I want to get out of, okay, I got you. We'll do the ebo. We'll release you from some of these issues that you are going through. But in this process, Ifa gives you an odun, and Ifa says, do this, do this, do this, don't do this, don't do this, offer this sacrifice, and boom, we begin to align. But it's only successful based on your discipline. Why? Because your Ori overrides all. It's the judge, the path, the witness, and the reward. Do you guys see where I'm getting at here? This is important, very important for us to just kind of understand because then it enlightens you as you progress through the faith. It shows you that, damn, did I do everything I was supposed to do in order to find that true alignment? All right, let's see. Paul, Ibudo boy, on a daily basis, should we honor our Ori first, Eshu, and then our head Orisha? Paul, 100% your Ori because it was placed by God and it was given to you in order for you to align yourself. Your Ori, you always got to give thanks to your Ori. When the sun comes up on the east, you grab your head and you give thanks to your Ori. Eshu has to always be present because Eshu is the one that's going to relieve those barriers from opening. So we want to make sure we're complementing it. It's not that one is going to override the other or whatnot, but yes, your Ori is super powerful, right? But we still need the advocacy of the other Orishas, right? So I had a question. So based on your statement, I'm going to give you some clarity here further. So your guardian Orisha, right? Your Orisha Batori, right? 100% important for me, Chango. Chango is my guardian Orisha. Okay, so but my Ori is the one that's going to dictate whether something is going to work or not because it is the most divine light given to humans by God through the breath of God and me, right? So then we have to ensure that our Ori is aligned. And because it's aligned, I can now talk to Chango and say, hey, Chango, my Ori is exactly where it needs to be. I need your help. I need your mediation. You, as my guardian Orisha, I need you because as you guard my spiritual well-being and which to include my Ori, right? Now I need your help. You're my mediator. I need you to mediate with Yemaya, Ochun, Osain, Inle, you name it. And now your guardian Orisha and your Ori are working in conjunction. Eshu has to always be honored. Eshu, it's a no-brainer, right? Eshu, no message gets to where it needs to get to in order to get to that mediator, right? Without honoring Eshu. We don't learn the lessons, right, that we need to learn from the past unless we honor our ancestors. We don't discover, right, our ancestral curses and the things that have been holding us back. And why do we keep reincarnating? Why is our bloodline not activated the way it should based on God's divine vision, that divine blueprint? because I have to be able to understand my ancestors. So they're all really conjunctioned, but nothing happens until your Oddi is aligned and you find that peace in that moment, first thing in the morning. And then you go to your Eshu and you say, Eshu, you knock on the floor, 1, 2, 3, Eshu, let me take some palm oil, blow some rum on you, whatever that may be, right? Based on the teachings of your house. Now, all of a sudden, you got some traction, right? Now you're able to petition your guardian Orisha. Now you're able to go do great things. Hopefully that answered your question, Paul. But what a great question you asked. Yes, your taboos. Nah, Michelle, you're 100% correct. Your taboos. Every one of us has taboos. 256 Oduns, a divine map of how this universe, how we need to act, how we need to move forward, begins to navigate those taboos, those ewos, what we call ewos, right? In order for us to better get to where we need to get to. Your good Ori is your direct connection to Olorum and Olodumare. 100% correct. 100% correct. Let's see. Sure, but please confirm with Baba here as well for definitions. Hmm. I'm not 100% sure what that is referring to, but Michelle King, I saw your comment. I think it's maybe to somebody else. Mafarafun Chango, many blessings. Ire, bubu, bubu ire. Oh, I see. All right, buruboya bucheche baba. It does. Thank you. No, absolutely. All right, let's get into it. All right, guys, this part right here is gonna get a little controversial. A little controversial. I still want you guys to share the video. I want you guys to like the video. I want you to subscribe. I still want you to do all those great things. All right, so I have a podcast that I did a while ago, and I had a couple of Babaláwo friends of mine listen to a particular podcast that I did on Christianity, and or at least the hypocrisy. And this is not necessarily the intent of this video, but I'm going to touch on this because this goes back to my point on Ori, right? Look, here's the truth, right? And this is not a knock on Christianity because Ifa preaches religious tolerance. As long as you can find your spirituality and your Ori can align and you can take personal responsibility, everything that I've been saying, right? You're going to be perfect. You're going to be great. You're going to be successful. You're going to elevate yourself, your family, your bloodline, and the generations that come after you. How beautiful does that sound? Well, Christianity cannot replace the function of Oddi. That is the number one key that I need us to all really get in line of ASAP. This is where we get real. Okay. This is not to offend. This is not to start a war. And I don't want 100 different messages in my inbox from all my Christian brothers and sisters out there with proverbs from the Bible and hey, I'm going to hell, et cetera, et cetera. This is just truth. This is just truth. So this is where we challenge the congregation with love, truth, and maturity. Okay, I'm going to say this as a disclaimer: love, truth, maturity. All right, let's see. So Christianity teaches us, this is what Christianity tells us, right? Or tells all humans, right? Is that obedience without self-knowledge is okay. I just have to obey this book. And no matter what the book says, from beginning to end, this is where we need to flow. And there is no gray space. This is what it is. All right. That self-knowledge that you need to build for today's modern age in order for us to evolve, in order for us to remove some of those generational curses, for us to elevate ourselves and community. It's not just about obedience. Okay, it's just not. There's a lot more with the self-taught based on what you were taught. When you chose your destiny and you went into your mother's womb and you were born and you started to live under the guidance of nurturing, right, and learning things, and in the communities you are in, there was more to it than just obedience. There was an awareness. Back in the day, we used to call it street smarts versus book smarts. There's a certain level of understanding that needs to be flexible. So it's not all about this little Bible, right? Or not little Bible, but you guys know where I'm getting at. So, and this goes for all the major religions, right? Salvation without personal responsibility. There's another thing that I want to harp on. If we repent and if we constantly just maintain course on what this doctrine tells us, and we don't have personal responsibility, that's okay. And I'm telling you, it's not okay because I just went through this whole spill about Oddi and your alignment. And if your alignment is good and you attend the owner of the crossroads and the keeper of the Yache, and then you honor your guardian Orisha and you find that elevation in order for you to power up, level up time, baby. That's the big key. Forgiveness without consequences. I was very clear about this. And throughout history, you always see, right? Christianity always says, forgive thy neighbor, forgive this, forgive that. I hear you, and I'm a very humble person, and I always like to look at the good and the bad. However, no consequences need to be laid out. You do something bad, you violate a child, you murder someone, something happens. No, bro, you can feel as bad as you want, but there's consequences, there's karma in this world, right? So we have to really kind of rethink this a little bit, right? And then we also got to dig a little deeper because something that the Christians preach heavily, and I've done a lot of research. This is just not me talking, right? If you guys know my history, Roman Catholic background, Catholic school, choir boy, went through all my sacraments within the Roman Catholic Church. I am 100% familiar with the topic of Christianity. Now, I could probably relate a lot to the Islam and a lot of the other world religions, but I'm not going to do that, right? I just want to kind of talk to you because they all kind of have the same framework, right? For example, morality without cosmology. So I'm supposed to sit back and not question the stars, the moon, the planets, the great creation that Olodumare put down in this world and in this universe. And we're supposed to understand the very secrets of this world. But no, I can't do that because I can't question God. I can't question the power. I can't use science in order to build logic, in order to rebuild myself. Again, self-knowledge, because the morality of the book is more important than anything else. So morality without cosmology, that's what the Christianity teaches us, and a lot of the world religions teach us. And I think that's wrong, right? God without destiny structure. Okay. This is something that, I kind of sit back because I want people to have faith and I want people to have blind faith. Sure. Everybody needs to believe in something. However, right? God is God. I see Christians see God as God, and we see God as God, and everybody sees God as God, and we all understand the Maker, the Supreme Being. We all get this, but we never ask the key question, and this is something that I think is very interesting about the world religions versus what we teach in Ifa and the Yoruba cosmology and the Ocha, and you know what I mean? Is we ask the why. Why did God, when He created light from the void and Eshu was already present, what does this mean? Right? We have to understand the divine structure and we have to be able to question these things without anyone trying to make anybody feel bad. Right? We have to be able to challenge and see how do things apply today that happened 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago. And that's okay. Why do they get so worked up? Why do a lot of these world religions get so worked up when you challenge something? When I take a Bible and I say, well, wait a minute, here it said that you sacrifice something. I can't sacrifice a rooster because I don't know, maybe because I'm not in your little inner circle. This is not high school. This is not the cool kids club. I don't need to be here in order to be here. As long as we're still doing the same thing and dividing to the same, what are we doing? We're the same. We're the same. Right? So, that is very interesting. And I think one of the other, key differences I think I find very interesting is the path to heaven that bypasses personal accountability. This is something that I think is very interesting. If I want to get to this magical place, right? Before I die, I have to be able to repent on all the bad that I did. I got to be able to be okay and say, hey, I allow the Lord Jesus to be my Savior. Okay, hallelujah. Do your thing, right? But it doesn't account for all the other things that you did, all the suffering, the setbacks of the generations to come. You have a responsibility there, brother. You ain't going up no pearly gates. You are interfering, or you being part of this divine plan have bigger things, or God has bigger plans for you. It's not that simple. Right? And this is just some key things and differences that I have to share because I think it's important for us to remember that. Right? Christianity teaches dependence, right? It teaches dependence on a book, right? And we have to be careful about that, right? Because you notice that in Ifa, because we're not a centralized faith, you do a consultation, those odums change, the 256 plus a consecration of an orisha, plus maybe a spiritual misa, and we're getting involved and we are kind of concocting as we go immediately in order to find the prescription that works for you. There's no dependence on anything, right? We have to be real at the moment in order to solve the mysteries, right, of this world and your problems. Ifa teaches responsibility, not dependence. Christianity says, wait for God to save you. Oh, hell no. Hell no. Your already is in place. God already empowered you. God already put the tools in place in order to ensure your success. Ifa says, Olodumare already placed the power inside of you. You just have to activate it under God's image. Christianity teaches, that evil comes from the devil. This is always an interesting topic, the devil. Oh boy. Ifa does not teach that. Ifa teaches that misfortune comes when your Ori is ignored and you miss those three critical steps of aligning your Ori, ensure the gatekeeper, making sure the gatekeeper of Ache, right? And those doors are open in order for you to mediate with the Orishas in order to push the agenda of your life, your destiny, right? Personal responsibility to ensure that you push yourself forward. Christianity says pray. God will fix it. I like prayer. I'm not going to knock prayer, but you can't sit idle in a world that's ever evolving. You can't sit idle and wait for food to just fall from the sky or money to hit your bank account or opportunities to open. You have to get aggressive with the power that God put into this world and everything that God has created from the nature energies to the universe. And you need to align yourself with God's intent, understand the blueprint, and get after it. I like prayer. I'm not saying prayer is bad. It's good for meditation. It's good for reflection. I pray to Ochango all the time. I pray to my Ori all the time. I pray to Orumila as a Babaláwo all the time. But I have to also be able to work them. Always do things from the heart. I always go to my Orishas to address them, to make sure that, hey, please continue to open up the doors for love, prosperity, tranquility, stability, health for me, my family, my Ile, my spiritual Ile, right? And I always do that. And I wrap myself around that. But then when I have to get after something, I know my Orisa line. I have to go to Eshu. I go to my guardian Orisha. I go to Orumila as a priest of Orumila. I'm his disciple. So therefore, guess what? Now I'm taking an active role. Ifa tells us, align your Ori, act with discipline, and your destiny will open. Very simple. So this is the reason why we got to look at it. Look at it like this. Christianity externalizes power. Ifa internalizes power. Two different things. Christianity externalizes power, book, prophet, etc. And then from there, guess what? You all follow the same thing. Every sheep does the same thing. Everybody's here. But Ifa is saying, internalize your power in order for it to move you, in order for it to get to where you got to get to. Right? This is why many Christians might struggle with identity. They struggle with purpose, discernment, ancestral disconnection. A lot of Christians are living through fear because this is a fear-based spirituality, Christianity. If you do this, you go to hell. If you do this, you go to hell. And you can go through many different ways that the Abrahamic faiths flow, and you begin to kind of see immediately that maybe what is going on, right? It's a fear-based, system, and that's not good. We can't live in fear in order to do the right thing. You got to do the right thing because you're aligned. You know, many Christians, I believe, struggle with emotional dependence, right? Instead of looking at the logical side, because they're not able to connect the dots. The 1 + 1 does not equal 2. They have to emotionally give into a doctrine or whatever this church may say. And they have to go through this emotional dependence. And that's bad. Ifa teaches balance, right? Balance. And then I think the last thing that Christians, I would say, and before I move on, is waiting for salvation instead of building destiny. If I'm sitting idle, just sitting idle, waiting, just waiting, instead of building my destiny, instead of being part of this divine blueprint, I don't know if that's the best avenue. And hear me out. Some people are good for Christianity. They need a certain level of structure and shepherding, right? In and out, right? Because that's just the structure that they need. And that's okay. But I think if you need to level up, and I think you want to kind of get to where you need to, you know, we have to understand Ifa is not denying God. No one is denying God. But Ifa teaches us how God expresses himself through each and every one of us, which is different. And no book can tell you this. Right? And that's the very interesting part of all of this, right? Again, this is not a knock. I love everyone that's spiritual. I think everybody who finds God and is able to align themselves, may God bless them. May Olodumare bless them. Moyumba, Olodumare. Let's praise him. That's beautiful. But just food for thought there. Who we got here? Who we got? Let's go back. Let's go into the chat. We got a little boy Abucheche from Jacksonville, Florida. Monster Hunter. How you doing? Suzette, how are you? Iburuboya. Shots. Buruboya Abucheche. Who else we got on here? Acheo Rumilana. Buruboya. Are there odors or patakis that explain creation further? Shots. There is 100%. So the beginning story comes from the Odun of Ayobe. It talks to us about when the light first appeared in the universe based on God's intent, when God created light from the void. In the Odun of Ayobe, and this is going to be a massive lesson. And I truly, suggest that you jump in, look at my past videos. If not, feel free to email me, guys. You guys know how to get a hold of me, right? Definitely there is a creation story within Ifa. Let's see. I need to learn the language. Ache Oromila. Boyd. The language of Yoruba is interesting, but it doesn't necessarily disconnect you, right, from the spiritual intent. So if you're speaking English, right, great. If you're speaking Yoruba and you understand the intent behind it, great. But if you're speaking Yoruba, let's just say, and yet you don't know what you're saying, then it falls flat. Everything in this world is based on vibrations, intent, your akokang, right, your ori, and how you push forward. Right, so I wouldn't necessarily worry too much about the language more than the intent. But no, I do agree because I think everybody can sharpen up from the Yoruba language. A lot of people say a lot of things, and I ask them, I say, hey, well, what are you saying? And they don't know. They just, it's things that are taught, you know what I mean, by our elders. And we say, hey, this is the prayer and this is the why. And you start to say, damn, well, wait a minute. And you have to kind of rethink those things, evolve the faith, evolve yourself. So I love it. I love it that you're working on that. Che Rumila, can you speak on the council Nasia? Monster Hunter, I'm gonna need a little bit more clarity on that, a little bit more. Che Lodumari, hey, how are you? Visual. Are there any aspects of Ifa that involve engaging more directly with Olodumare? So in shots, one of the biggest things is God already did his piece when he created all the powers that be, put Ori in you. So there is no direct, let's say a bull sacrifice. No, but there is a concept, you know what I mean, where if you look at the Yoruba cosmology map, you have God. And God, just like many religions, we have a trinity as well. It's called, our trinity is Olorum, Olofin, and Olokun. And those three trinities together, right, begin to outline knowledge, or I'm sorry, wisdom, power, um, I'm missing one. I'm sorry, I drew a blank there. But that Trinity itself has its own layers, and there's ways to get up to the Trinity, but to get to God, you know what I mean? So, a raw energy of God is that it's always with us. You know what I mean? There's nothing that you need to do in order to get to God because God already gave you His breath and me, and that's how we see it in Yoruba. This is very informative. No, I'm glad you're enjoying this, Chrissy. Yes, I understand, but I want to know the language. I feel you, Mino. I feel you. From the heart. Yeah, I agree. Intent is very important. I check. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to it. All right, so here's my other partner. Ori in the Odun Obifa. Right? When we talk about Ifa, some of the things that we need to understand is that, you know, now that we anchor this in somewhat of a method where we started to explain, we need to understand that Ori in the Odun Ifa not is not a belief, it's not a theology, right? But the very Oduns, right? The oldest living spiritual corpus on this earth, right? You can see predates even ancient Egyptians, predates, right? Where we like to use the timeline before Christ, BC. We understand that Ori and the Oduns of Ifa are very important, right? And so then I want to just touch on just a few Oduns because I don't want everybody to say, well, this Babaláwo, this crazy guy, he was all excited and passionate and he was talking about Ori and this has to be true. No, you don't got to take my word for it. You can talk to another Babaláwo, collaborate what I'm saying. I'm okay with that, right? Because Obeyekun tells us and it teaches us in the Odun of Obeyekun that Ori is older than any Orisha, meaning that I can offer to Chango, you can offer to Chango, we can salute Yemaya, we can pray to Elegwao, but if Ori rejects the petition because that's God's blueprint in you, right? Then nothing will manifest. So what does that tell you? You have to take the personal responsibility of personal alignment, your Ori alignment, your Ori Inu, your inner consciousness has to be good to go, ready to go, right? In order for everything else to kind of come together. Ori is the true gatekeeper of your destiny. Absolutely is coupled with a few other things. But that's just something we have to begin to understand in order for us to truly get to where we need to get to. Ifa is the way of life of study as well. Everything isn't such a quick fix. Your intent to be closer to your Ori is important as well. Ache. Well said. Well said, Michelle. Orinu is the seat of the soul. Ha ha ha. Iniola one, Iboroboya, and Acheo. Okay, let's go into another Odu. Let's talk about Oyekumeyi, right? We talk about um Obeyeko. I want to talk about Oyekumeji, right? In this Odu of Oyekumeyi, it tells us that each soul chooses its destiny in Orum before coming to this earth, right? There's a process that plays itself out before the human comes out of the womb, before the human begins to manifest itself, right? And begins to grow in mom's stomach, right? So you gotta remember that each soul chooses their destiny, right? And imagine if this was you up there and you are trying to get to this destination, no different than if you were going to a family vacation, a car trip. You want to make sure the car is fuel, you got everything you need, you got money, you got, you know what I mean? The car is working and functioning. You scheduled rest stops, you did, you know what I mean? There's a plan that has to be put in place. And this destiny comes with a plan. Right? And we have to ensure that we understand that plan now that we're here, now that we, are re-understanding or understanding again what was it that we chose. That's the reason why people receive their hand of Ifa. Give me my destiny sign. Oh, now you want to be a Babaláwo? Perfect. We're going to give you more destiny signs because now your status has changed and you are now evolving in order to ensure that everybody else is, well, we're going to give you three more itas now. That's what Babaláwo's got. They got three itas. Plus everything else they have to receive that takes itas. And they have to learn it, right? This particularly, this destroys the Christian ideas of things. Here's why. Right? Because in Christianity, it says God will reveal your purpose later. Eesh. I don't know if the idol thing kind of works out for me, but to each their own. That's okay for those who want to follow that. Um, you were born without direction. Therefore, I'm going to give you these laws and you're going to follow them and you are going to stick to this plan. And again, God will reveal your purpose later. Okay, I don't subscribe, but it's okay. You know, that's what they believe in. Just wait for God to show you. Okay. There's a lot of idols sitting back, not really taking, life by the horns, really, you know what I mean? And really getting after it in order to elevate what God gave us. And so no, I don't necessarily subscribe to those things. But you see the conflict. Each of your souls, its destiny in Oru before coming to the earth was selected. And now we need to recoup that knowledge and understanding in order to get after it. You have to get after it. I have to get after it. That is the goal. So Ifa says, you choose your path before birth. Christianity says, you discover your path after birth. Right? So, it kind of almost challenges you to say, well, if you were born into a family that probably wasn't well off, like me, very, very, moderate upbringing, right? I'm a project baby. I've had my run-ins in the streets. I had to clean myself up. I had to work through myself, and that's okay, right? But one is active and one is passive. I'd rather be active than passive. This is the reason why Christianity would never work for me. I have to be active, not passive. The world will pass you by, and this world is ruthless, right? And the survival of the fittest. And your fitness is your ori inu. Your fitness is your alignment. Your fitness is pushing forward. And that's important for us to remember. You follow the way of life study, boom. Everything isn't a quick fix. No, buru boy bucheche. Ori inu. Yep, acheo. Now let me talk about another one. I'm gonna give you guys another one. Okay? Iwuri meji. Iwuri meji. In the Odung of Ifa, Iwuri meji. Right? It tells us immediately. clear as day. No Orisha blesses someone whose Ori is not aligned. Okay, something that's very important. Now, I'm going to couple that with another lesson in Vivudi Meiji, which says that logic and the flow of logic is very vital in a person's life. So then you start to kind of look at it and you say, no Orisha blesses someone whose Ori is not aligned. And you say, well, okay, all right. And now it's telling you to use logic. Okay, so this is why. People pray, but nothing changes because are they evolving? People go to church, but remain confused. Why? Because they don't internalize what God has given them in order to make those changes. People fast, people do all types of spiritual, I guess ceremonies or rituals, right, within the Christianity, but they stay directionless because you always got to just stay and don't worry, my child. God will show you the way. And I don't know if that is necessarily the best function for many people. Again, some people, this doctrine and this fear-based system and this shepherding and being a sheep um maybe work for some people. And some people may need that type of structure, and that's okay, right? People cry to God but repeat the same mistakes, right? And this can be called Stockholm syndrome, right? And I hate to say this, right? But there's actual psychological diagnosis that talks about these things, right? We can't just cry and keep repeating the same thing. If something's not working, we need to evolve it. If something is not working, we need to kind of maybe shift gears, right? Mankind would have never evolved if we kept repeating the same mistakes, right? We would have never had an electric vehicle versus gas powered versus coal powered versus, no plane to an airplane to there's just a level of evolution that's just typical and normal, right? Because the problem is not the outside. The breakthrough, your breakthrough, is the inside. Think about it. Think about it. That is a great analogy. Fear-based system and shepherd sheep system. I like that you enjoyed it. I don't think any Christians that hear this are gonna like me very well. But this is not a bash on them. But at the end of the day, it's an understanding merely, a perspective merely. And again, I grow up and I very much respect all religions. Ifa tells us to do so. So here's some practical alignments, right? I know I told you guys a lot, right? But I want to kind of make sure that we are kind of understanding some things. The reason why this Sunday, this spiritual session, right, um, is important is because this is not an emotional hype, right? I'm not here to sell you nothing. I'm not here to tell you anything. No, I'm just not. I'm here to give you just whatever knowledge you want and whatever spiritual house you reside in and whatever godparents you have, right? This is a call of action to ensure that you understand the Yoruba cosmology and you understand your Ori so that you can get after what you need to get after. So this is not a challenge to anybody, right? Going back to something that Paul said earlier was, what do I do? Well, pray to my Ori, Eshu, my guardian Orisha. Say your daily prayers. And if you want to say it in Yoruba, more power to you as long as you know what you're saying. Right? Grab your head. You know what I mean? And every morning you should be facing the east. Look to the sun, something so beautiful and simple as the sun. My Ori, don't let me be lost in this world. My Ori, carry me. My Ori, bless me. Done. Done. And if you can take some water and sprinkle it on the floor, in order to understand that water is a purifying essence of life, right? Everything needs water. The world is mainly water. Give water. Something simple, right? You got to sometimes ask yourself and reflect. We get so busy in the mess of life because life can sometimes be quite chaotic. Sometimes people don't even have time. They work, they go to sleep, they work, they go to sleep, they try to do some things in between. And sometimes we, don't give ourselves enough credit to do something as simple as something in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, I could probably say what I need to say to my Oddi, asking for love, stability, tranquility, prosperity, health, and blessings for me, my family, my ile. Eshu, good morning. One, two, three. Take some rum, blow it. Take some palm oil. And then I go and I light a candle to Chango, Orumila. I say, all right, maybe within minutes, I'm done with everything, right? And I have my own rituals that I do every month, things that I do weekly, the things that I do bi-monthly. There's a lot of different things that I do to ensure that my ancestors are there and everybody is taken care of. But look how simple. It's not hard. It's not hard. So you always got to ask yourself, did I honor my destiny today? Or did I betray it? Something to think about, right? You should always have a physical goal and a spiritual goal in everything that you do, right? So here's an example. I want to get healthier. Okay, so get healthier, right? Maybe you're gonna eat right. Maybe you're gonna start following some of your rules, your things that you're prohibited from, and you're gonna avoid them, right? Maybe I'm going to get healthier inside, but also reinforce myself spiritually because maybe I'm supposed to receive, a spiritual misa. Maybe I'm supposed to get a cleansing that I never got. Maybe, I need to clean myself with some herb baths or a white bath, right? And talk to your elders about those things. Maybe I got to clean my home. Maybe I got to fix my finances. Maybe I got to improve my discipline. Maybe I have to set up a boveda. Maybe I have to salute my ori and I got to be consistent about it in the morning. Maybe I got to read, some information that maybe my godfather or my Olu CYU or my Oba, has given me so I can learn more, maybe about my sign or something. Maybe I need to reduce some of the chaos in my world, the things that are not working to align me. I need to push it out and say, you know what? No, right? If people are not at your level, they're not at your level. And you need people that are going to push you above your level, right? People who are going to help drive you, not hold you down. You got to reduce the chaos. You got to increase the structure. Ori blesses movement, not stagnation. You need to always be moving, always doing your thing, right? So let's just make sure that we understand, a couple of things. I hope this was beneficial. I hope that you guys saw something here. Hopefully, it resonated with you, And then next Sunday, obviously, I'll see you all again where we start to kind of talk about the spiritual science, right, of character. When we talk about iwapale, when we talk about good character, right, we're going to talk about odun like irosomei, ikamei, wurimei. We'll tackle that, right? And hopefully we'll explain why it's important that your character is more important than your offering. Yeah, your character is more important than your offering. Ifa knew. What did Ifa tell me? That I actually follow through. Because if I didn't follow through, then what's the point? All right? Your behavior determines your blessings. Your Ori rejects those who reject discipline. Hopefully that kind of entices you. Hopefully I see you next Sunday. And with that said, hey Buru, Iboya, Ibucheche, Cyberlands, your favorite Babaláwo. At least I hope so. Omodum, Oddi Leke coming at you. And hopefully I see you next Sunday. Absolutely. Michelle King, gentle character. Wapale, good character. Many different in translations there. But gentle character sounds beautiful. Little boy, Abucheche team.